everyone, and welcome back to Hokie Track Chats. My name is Kinley Andrew, and I'm the coordinator for new student and family programs here at Virginia Tech. A few weeks ago, I was joined by Erica Coates from Cook Counseling Center on a Facebook Live that we did on mental health for your student at Virginia Tech. In that session, Erica had a presentation where she showed some visuals, but also went through a bunch of different resources available to your student on campus and some general information about how you can support your student through mental health concerns or crises. Today's episode of Hokie Track Chats is going to be a shortened version of that webinar. Erica is going to talk about some tips on how you can support your student and provide an in-depth dive into Timely Care, which is a new mental health resource provided through Cook Counseling Center for your student. However, if you are interested in watching the full version of this session, you are still able to access it on our Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/HokiesOnTrack, and you should be able to access it with our live videos. That's going to dive further into more resources on campus like Hokie Wellness and some other initiatives from Cook Counseling Center. But for today's episode on the podcast, I really wanted to focus on Timely Care. I've mentioned it a couple times actually in past episodes, and so I thought it was going to be great for you to get more information on what it actually looks like for your student to take advantage of this resource. I am going to go ahead and turn it over to the recording from that webinar with Erica. She's got lots of good information to share. And as always, thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoy today's episode.
Great. Thanks for your time. I'm just picturing everyone's houses and situations and cares and concerns and hopes and fears in this moment. And it just feels really special to get a chance to gather about such an important topic. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Before coming to Tech 6 years ago, I worked with families in community mental health. And I'm a parent myself with a teenager, not quite college age, but I'm starting to anticipate some of these feelings and transitions. So yeah, just grateful to be with y'all. So today, really am talking about two things. How can you, as someone who cares for someone who potentially may be in distress, your college student, how can you talk with them? Just a few general ideas. This, and I want to keep in mind, some of your students with distress or mental health concerns, that may be longstanding. This may be like old news to you. Some of this might be some newer flavors and things that are new. So I just want to honor that as a reality. But a second topic are, more specifically about the mental health resources on campus. I did want to just name I did math recently, and I've worked with in my role at Cook Counseling Center around 1,000 students until this year. It's grown some more. And so it's fascinating to get to hold the spot that I've held and listening to them. Some themes, this certainly doesn't fit for everyone, but some themes that we start to see at this point in the semester is like interpersonal worries are really like peaked. It's like, there may have been some feeling disconnected initially, or some like, yay, I'm so connected. And then something's just not going great. Interpersonally is a common reason that students would come into the counseling center about now. Difficulty focusing, we've seen between last academic year and pre-pandemic, there was a 30% increase in students identifying in one of their top concerns, a difficulty with focus. I feel for them. This is a huge issue. And can you imagine how hard it must be to feel like you can't get your brain to cooperate when you're really wanting it to? This is a huge one. Burnout and then shame about being burned out is hard. That, struggling to know how to study. We see so many bright students that have been like, I didn't have to study before, what's going on? And many of them are like trying to find their own intrinsic voice of what is important to them, which is very developmentally appropriate, but very painful and hard to do, especially if there's pressure, right? That's a hard hard thing to find. So there are so many other types of concerns. We keep data on that, but these were some of the top ones that I just wanted to normalize a name. You may see students, your students within this range. This is a really childlike graphic, but it is rooted in some really deep science if you feel like researching it on the autonomic nervous system, that we optimally function somewhere between these two poles, right? Where we're in freeze mode, or pulling back and away, inertia, difficulty getting going, burnout, depression, or our body has this potentiality to be very activated, right? It's like the opposite of that really flat state, where panic can exist, or heightened anxiety, in intense emotion, like a body wanting to go. So I'm not going to talk about this long, but I just want to say this frame is really, really rich. If you feel like looking into it a little more, we're going to increasingly be using this language at Tech about these zones. So if your students in one of these spots or all of these spots, ping-ponging back and forth, I would encourage any parent to just start with validating what they're saying, and just hanging out there for a minute. This is hard. Or saying, so you're feeling, and then trying to take a guess at what you're hearing them say, and say nothing else for a moment. Just let that be. I know I'm a fixer, problem solver person. I want to jump to solution. Therapy, becoming a therapist for the last, many years has beat that out of me just a little bit. I know it's important to kind of hang here for a little bit. And I've noticed it's harder with my children than with other people. So I'd encourage validating, and then some good questions to ask when your student is distressed. After you've hung out in the validation land for a bit, what has helped you before to get through this? Who's in your corner? What's the next small step you can take? That can be some gentle language that helps them find their voice in that distress. Will not always work. Again, I'm a parent. I know that. I get shot down on these questions from my children sometimes, but just a couple things to have in your tool bag. I did do a word cloud with about 100 students not too long ago, and I loved their responses. So the text says my go-to, what I use to settle myself, when we're thinking about that range of the nervous system's stance, and so maybe you can find something on here to suggest to your student. But yeah, I liked that visual from the last. And sleep, that's a big one, right? They struggle with this so much. But it's not the only answer. So let's talk a bit about these resources that Virginia Tech offers. There are many, and they're actually spread across a few departments. Obviously, Cook Counseling is an amazing spot to start. I will get into that. But I really want you to know about this website, wellbeing.vt.edu. What you can find there is details on certain types of well-being domains, mental health being one, physical health being one, sexual health being one. There's several others. And you can kind of scroll through to find and select, I'm looking for support for individual care along this topic. I really want to meet with one other person. I want to gather with people and discuss this, etc. So I highly recommend, if your student's overwhelmed and you're trying to figure out a place to start, this is a great resource, wellbeing.vt.edu. And I mentioned this bottom point because I am going to talk through Cook Counseling, Hokie Wellness, and Timely Care. But what so many in my seat as a therapist working with college students, it's tough because what they repeatedly tell me is how weird they feel for feeling weird. And as you can imagine, having heard that 1,000 times, what we really want to see is that students are able to connect. So a lot of the mental health resources at Virginia Tech are positioning increasingly more and more to how can we help you feel supported, with others? Because, a lot of the literature on anxiety, depression, and other mental health concerns say that having a support system where you feel safe and connected is so protective. It's not everything, but it is so protective. So let's talk about Cook Counseling. So you may have heard a little bit about these things, but I just want to go through briefly some of the main services of what Cook offers that you can access through a Cook Connect session, which is a student's first point of contact with Cook is to call and get a Cook Connect session. And in that appointment, which lasts about 30 minutes, the therapist working with the student would figure out where do you need some help? Where does it exist? And is that Cook? Might it be individual therapy or group therapy? Again, back to we really would love students to feel connected, in group that, according to our satisfaction survey data, is a good option for many students, and definitely not all, but many students. We do have a psychiatry department that just does amazing work. We have a wonderful team. They tend to be only accepting pretty urgent referrals at this point in the semester. So their availability about halfway through the semester kind of narrows down. And so here we are at the end. So our psychiatry is available, but your student may not get in for psychiatry until next semester if they were referred right now. So just to be upfront about that. We also work with students around psychiatry to say, if you have a doctor in Virginia that you like and trust and can help, then let's do that. However, so many of our students aren't from Virginia, of course. And so, if there's a doctor that they already have connection with, or someone that they can get access to on winter break, then we would suggest that at that point in time. So just FYI about that. We do thousands of hours and touch thousands of students through our outreach and education to try to prevent some stressors and concerns. We have liaisons and embedded counseling in several of the colleges, as well as the residence halls, as well as the cultural and community centers, and with SSD. In all of those places, we either have a counselor who is the liaison or an embedded counselor. So if you'd like a little more information about that, because it can be a shortcut into care, go to Cook's website and you can click to see what colleges we're serving and that kind of thing. And as I said, we link to lots of resources, and we also offer consultation to parents, to faculty when they have a student they're worried about, not sure where to turn. Parents can call us. And when I first started, I obviously know a lot about our confidentiality and privacy rules, and I was apprehensive about taking parent phone calls. But what I've learned over time is there's a lot that I can give or share with a parent that is not me divulging private information about the student to the parent, which I cannot do without the student's permission, but is about in general this, or here's this resource. And usually those conversations seem to have been a little helpful to a parent. So you can call us, and we have crisis counselors who are available during business hours to talk to parents about a concern. And we do have an on-call system as well if it's an emergency, after hours in terms of emergency for your student. Well, you may have heard about an initiative that Tech has contracted with, this service called Timely Care, and it is an expansion of our mental health offerings to students. I'm really excited about it. I'm actually the main point of contact between Cook and Timely, so I interact with this service a good bit, and students' experiences and needs of it. So please encourage your student to go ahead and register for it, because they can speak with a therapist no matter where they are in the US or the world through the Talk Now feature. After entering their their health history, which they can enter, they can put really minimal information or really extensive information. It's up to them. And they can hit talk now, and in about 5 minutes, a mental health specialist will give them a call. And that can be video or phone call, and talk them through that really, really hard time. So it's an awesome thing. Students have really utilized it. We've had, I could pull the number if anyone would like to know, but it's over 700 students this fall, and it just started this fall. Timely Care access one of these 3 services. So one is Talk Now, one is health coaching, which is great for a student who has a health concern, such around diet or sleep or time management or stress management, or starting an exercise regime. And I like it because many times as a therapist, I don't always have the time to analyze sleep. We're prioritizing other things, but they would really benefit to talk to someone to give them a little bit of more help and time on that. As in every setting I've worked, it's hard to get to everything sometimes. So that's a pro of the health coaching. It's not limited, it's unlimited. And the other pro of health coaching is if your student doesn't feel quite like they need mental health care, or that feels, like a deterrent to them, then that could be another opportunity where talking about stress or time management could be a good space for them. Timely Care also offers up to 12 free scheduled counseling sessions. So all the Timely Care sessions are free to our enrolled students. So up to 12 counseling sessions, which is awesome. That clock resets every August. So, and Timely is working on some planning for how they could grow that number past 12 for a fee per session. But Timely Care is not attached to insurance, and is available for students. Thank you. And I'm just sending a very full heart to you and all that you carry for yourself and for your family. So thanks for being with us.
All right, y'all, that is all for today's episode. Again, if you're interested in listening to the full version of the webinar, you're still able to access it on our Facebook page. But I do appreciate Erica spending this time talking about these resources to you all. It's super important. We know that during this time coming out of the first semester, going into the second, whether it be finals, some homesickness still, there's lots to pay mind to when it comes to your students' mental health. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Hokie Track Chats is brought to you by New Student and Family Programs at Virginia Tech. For more frequent updates, follow us on social media at Hokies on Track on Facebook or Instagram. If you are not already, join the Hokie Family Hub, which can be found at our website, students.vt.edu/transition. Music is Sun Say Yes by JL Brock. Editing software is Audition.